rise for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will open with public comment. Is there any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, just a real quick question. We understand that the legal closed-door meetings are to protect privacy, et cetera, but a lot of times there's at least an opportunity to say, okay, subject matter without disclosing any personal information. And so a lot of people are asking what closed door is going on. We'd like to be able to let them know if we can, and if not, let's understand subject matter without getting into any discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll move on to our
Thank you.
working meeting, Nicole Brown, Community Development County website, Facebook, postcards, newsletter for communication with the public.
So I don't have anything to present to you. This was put on the agenda at your request, so I guess I'm just looking for instruction. What's the plan?
Well, I can tell you what I've done with my research so far. So we talked about the county website and costs. Anyway, Dave brought to my attention that the city at one time was considering a website. And so I got that information, and it was from a company called Municipal Impact. They quoted the city for an annual subscription of $719, a setup fee of $399, and they gave them a discount of $110, so it was going to cost them only $1,008 to set up this website. Now, what type of site, anything like that, I don't know. I didn't contact these folks, but anyway, that just kind of gave an idea of. I should have made some more copies. I'm sorry I didn't, but you guys can look at that.
What is the name of it again?
It's called Municipal Impact. I did contact a company out of Billings that came highly recommended, called SkyPoint Studios. And anyway, I asked them, what it would cost to do something through them. I'll just read the letter. It said, we'd love to put together a website for Broadwater County. As we don't know too much about the specs of the website, I will offer you 3 budget options. 1, a basic 3 to 4 page website with the essentials, $600. Immediate design site with 5 to 6 pages, $1,200. Advanced design site with 9 to 10 pages, $1,800. There may be some small management fees if things need to be updated throughout the year. We bill $75 an hour for these changes, and a lot can be done in 15 to 30-minute blocks. Development usually takes 2 to 3 weeks for a prototype, with an additional 1 to 2 weeks for an official launch. Anyway, look forward to working together. So there's just kind of an idea of where we may be cost-wise or something like that.
And that is a one-time fee, it's not an annual fee?
Right.
This is a one-time setup fee.
Yeah, and then they would, if we had to do updates,
Obviously, that's
we
where the
could do that.
$75.
And I guess my thought was if we could do something similar like we're doing with you, if we could have a staff member occasionally do the updates, if they're okay with doing things like that, I don't know.
Okay.
Rather than have to, I would think that we'd want to do that. But maybe if we're like adding pages and doing the actual changes to the site itself, it's probably something that they would do. But as far as for updating information, I don't see any reason why it's something that we shouldn't be able to do, because that's going to change on a weekly basis, right? Anyway, I don't know that for sure.
And the other option is Chris Vasquez, right?
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
right, so, yeah, let's talk about who that is and,
So he's right now is a seasonal sprayer with the weed board.
okay. Rich Vasquez?
Chris.
Cliff.
Chris.
Okay.
So he'd be another one we could get a proposal from.
Okay. And does Cliff live locally, I'm guessing?
Mhm.
So we could have a local person that would be here
Yeah,
to call him, okay? That sounds good.
so, I also did some research, while at the conference. One of the sessions we had was how to tell your story when your newspaper won't or can't. And basically it was, how can communities communicate with their citizens in an age where, especially in small towns, papers are dying, or they are not able to report the full story, for whatever reason. In larger communities, like New York City, LA, your smaller communities within the larger communities are lost because the stories are geared to those municipalities. So especially for small communities, there is a real vacuum of how to communicate accurately what is happening from the county to the citizens, or what the citizens want to communicate to the county. So that was the presentation. Before I left, I met with 2 different marketers in Helena on this. Not necessarily what resources are there, but what can we do? It was a very open-ended question. I also had lunch with the gal who gave the presentation at NACO, and it's online too, and I would encourage all of us to watch that. It's a video, well done. She's from Florida, big county. It's rural nationally, but compared to us, it's a big county. So, Facebook, probably don't want to jump into that because you've got to have somebody full-time. And what they said is at least one person, because you don't necessarily want to debate the emotions that are so prevalent on Facebook, but you've got to have somebody that can answer the false statements that are also so prevalent on Facebook. It's a full-time job because you've got to be monitoring constantly. So you're writing a report, a letter, holding a board meeting, and you have a ding come across your computer. Really, to be responsible to that job, you would have to literally stop everything you're doing at any given point of the day or night and answer that Facebook post with, no, it is not true that, here are the facts. Do you have a team? Do you have one person? And how many hours are you looking at? So the other thing is Facebook is not growing, it is shrinking. It is really one particular age group that's watching Facebook. So it is not suggested that we put our resources there unless we have unlimited resources. So the other thing is website. We have a website right now. I mentioned the website. They said your issue is not your website. It's the habit of using it. So the name is townsendmt.com with a click on the county page. We can actually push the URL for somebody to do a Google search in Broadwater County. BroadwaterCounty.com is not available. But if somebody Googled Broadwater County, we could push the URL so that top of the list comes up Broadwater County. Person clicks on that, they don't look at what the address is. They just click on that search result and it'll take them directly to the Broadwater County page. We already have it, it's already paid for, it's already being managed, but we need more activity on it. The same goes for these. Just having a new website doesn't do you anything. It's the continued activity, continued changes, up-to-date information, relevant information, calendars, all the things that we've already talked about doing on the existing page. There's no difference. You can do it on what we have or something new, but that's what the key is. So for us as leaders, One of the things that we should do on the website is State of the County. We're about to finish budget season, there should be an article on the budget. And that's where we can lead. But there should also be articles from every single department, maybe every other month. And those are updated onto the website so that there's always new information as well as alerts. And we can also push those alerts to our email listserv so that they get ding reminders, kind of like Facebook uses. But we can do that through email and it's free. And that would be connected to our website. So there's a lot of things that we can do. Chris can walk us through a lot of these that we don't know, like pushing the URL, like the email updates. And then here's the other thing they said is somehow you have got to help people get in the habit of looking at your website. How do you do that? Email updates for sure. The other one is you've got to somehow get a message out to all the people that the website exists, because right now they don't know it. And that takes us back to the postcards.
Sure.
We talked about quarterly postcard. I think that's fine. I would suggest for a short time that we do it monthly, maybe for 1 quarter, when we get our feet under us. We do 3 monthly news postcards that remind people to go to the website and do a Broadwater County search to get that URL so that they come right to the page, and then revert back to quarterly at that point. We've got to get people in the habit and let them know that it's there, and they're not going to get it from one message. You need to say something 3 times for people to have it sink in. So I think that was it. And if you guys ask questions, it might jar some more memories. And the video is called Pennies for Pinellas, and it's on the NACO website. And I'll send you guys a link so you can watch that.
Is that something we can put in our minutes when people read the minutes, they could go to that website? I'm just curious to look at
If you
that.
give me the information, I can see that it gets in here.
Absolutely.
And I can create a
Absolutely.
link on the website,
yeah.
so all they have to do is hover or click, and it will take them to that.
All right.
So
Absolutely.
creating those links.
Now, the question was asked, well, how much money are you guys gonna spend communicating with the public? Well, I think it's important to communicate with the public. The communication that I have received outside of this meeting, now remember, we serve 6,000 people, 7,000 is what we heard Wednesday night. Census is gonna come in somewhere between those two. That's the number of people we serve. Now, we certainly serve the 5 in this room without question, but we also serve the other 6,595 people who are not sitting here. How do we communicate with them? So, I know you had a conversation, I understand, with a citizen
We
who
did,
said,
and it totally brings it all to light. After our last commission meeting on Monday, a gal approached us, asked Mike and I some questions, and during the course of the conversation, as it went along, she said, I don't get the newspaper, I'm not on the internet. She actually had her friend help give her an email address and help her with doing some of those types of things. And the questions she was asking, obviously, because she had not been informed. She did not have the right information. And just emphasize the importance of having to do this somehow. And I know that we're gonna have to spend some money to do it, and in my mind, that's what we're gonna do.
the postcards could be like commercials. You know, tonight at 5, we'll be covering whatever. Our postcards are, what is Broadwater County doing? Here's the blips of information. To learn more, Google Broadwater County or go to the government page on townsendmt.com.
You know, along with that is, what we did down in the south end of the county last week. That was the right thing to do, and we need to continue to do more of that. I don't know if that's something we need to consider for the folks that live north of us. I think that might be a consideration.
We've had meetings in Winston, and they have been well attended. The Big Bowl will close for us.
Okay.
And they provided us with donuts and coffee, which was above and beyond. But there is a desire throughout the county for us to have more traveling meetings.
Yep.
And one of the things I said as questions came up, I remember, one of the marketers from Helena said, use your email. And I thought, well, yeah, we kind of do right now, but it was the presenter who said, we do weekly newsletters via email.
Right.
Now, I saw your eyes get really big at weekly newsletters. Maybe we don't do a weekly newsletter, but maybe we do a weekly message.
Sure.
Drive to the website, also communicate with folks, because what's happening in these meetings is not being accurately conveyed to the public.
Sure.
In fact, quite inaccurately. Maybe we take one subject, make a very short paragraph, and just inform the people of what we did on that one subject. If you want to learn more, see the full meeting on YouTube, on the website, or read the official minutes to get those details. So we can do something, and I'm not looking at you to put this all on you. I do think that that should be us putting together maybe that blurb Monday afternoons to let people know what we did.
Right. So, thinking of the email portion of that, would that be something similar to like the folks that are on our emailing list for the agendas?
Exactly.
And we can convey that through our postcard to get people to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
that information can be, disseminated. I mean, I think that's one good way of starting this process, I really do.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Right, I think it's a really good, I have several weekly and monthly newsletters that I subscribe to electronically.
Right.
And I think it's the best way to communicate. It's free,
Sure.
everyone's getting the same information, so why could we not, with this initial postcard, say, because I don't know that we should necessarily take everyone that we have already. I think it should be, this is just my thought, but we have a considerable list of folks from the south end of the county. They've given us their email. We have the agenda email list, but I think it's something people should maybe sign up for instead of us just sending it out to them,
Right.
would be my thought.
Yeah. And I think that's how that would get, if we include that information in the postcard, if they're interested, then they will sign up.
And all you would have to do is say, here's my email, this is my name,
Yep.
sign me up.
Yep.
Right? It would take 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we have an email address, it's info@,
co.broadwater.mt.us.
yeah,
Okay.
and that goes to, I think, 5 people. Well, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people right now. So one of those 7 can respond and everybody can see that they responded. So I don't think it's been set up yet, but it's been set up,
It's been set up, I just don't know that it's being used because we're not promoting it.
maybe that's it, because I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay.
So,
Right. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea, and, weekly, and once it becomes habit, just like with the website, I was nervous at first with posting all of this content on the website. I didn't know what this was going to look like, and now it's so easy. I mean, you send me the agenda, you send me the minutes, I pull agendas off the board and add them to the calendar. It's easy. I mean, half an hour of my time weekly max. Could be doing more, I'm sure, with more content, if we wanted to add more, but what I'm saying is to do a weekly newsletter, once it becomes habit, super easy, I'm sure, and not very time consuming.
True. And that is important to know that. I know that everybody, all of our employees wear multiple hats here. When I came from Lewis and Clark County, we had an IT department, multiple employees, and somebody in that department was responsible for that website. We don't have that option here. So we're going to work with the framework that we have right now.
Well, and I think it's important, I think for the most part, all of us, I mean, I don't think we have any weak links in the county. I truly think every one of our employees here in the county, we're going to do what it takes to get the work done, because we have one job. And I don't mean one job as in one task, we have one job, to serve the citizens of Broadwater County to the best of our ability, whether that's at coffee on Saturday, after church on Sunday, during work hours, Monday through Friday. But so I think wearing multiple hats, It's what we are here to do. We need to do the work of the people.
Another thing I'm gonna throw out, you brought this idea up a year ago, to maybe two. Andy does it, and I get updates, you might be aware of this. Coffee with Andy. Once a month, he is at a particular place, public place, and anybody can come and have a cup of coffee and share their ideas, their issues, their complaints, their successes. Just say hi. You suggested that we start this, and there was an awful lot of pushback. I don't know why. But I'm gonna start it, and I would invite the three of us, not together necessarily, because then it's an open meeting and, you know, can't make decisions, and I'm sure there'll be attacks. But as an individual, I'm going to start it, and I invite you guys to do it as well. I'll let you know where I'll be and when, so that you can know not to be there. But,
Don't take this anything.
right?
But this could be something that we throw out there with our email listserv,
Right.
or, you know, our notifications, which I think that is essentially what Twitter was created for. I don't know many people that use Twitter in this area. Maybe I'm the only one who is not. But email is a really easy tool that I think 90% of people use, so.
Twitter is dying. Instagram is exploding right now with the younger folks. Everyone says social media. Social media, there is no such thing. Social media is huge. Social media is all the different names, for lack of a better word. And depending on your age group, you migrate to one or maybe two. So that's why it's social media. How do you define it? It's huge. Right, if you have one.
If you have one, yeah.
Right, yeah. And every community needs a good newspaper that tells people the facts. Because then as a community, we can make good decisions together. And we should be able to debate the facts, not the personalities. So maybe that's what we lead, and maybe the newspaper can follow or join us.
So are you wanting to do a postcard, an initial postcard? That's what I'm hearing, that's where we should be going. I know Commissioner Obert, you suggested 3, 1 per month for 3 months and then move to quarterly. Do we want to start with 1 postcard? That's what I'm hearing, to disseminate this information to everyone.
I would request that we do some homework first.
Okay.
We do.
I think we can start planning it for sure. I think we need to either talk with Ernie on how to push our Broadwater County search,
Okay.
and how to make sure that our page comes up with that search. And if Ernie doesn't know, I would imagine he can work with Click Right Designs. If not, and that should be free. If not, I would suggest that we contract with Chris to give us that URL push. When we have that done, and we have 3 postcards planned with 3 consecutive messages that tie in together, then we do the first one, so that we are timely and we are consistent. Consistency is the key.
Right.
That would be my request.
Yeah, we do have to have that information, whatever, that webpage that we just decide on has to be
Right,
on that, because that's gonna drive people to that.
yeah.
All right, yeah, I would really like to meet with Cliff and,
Chris.
Huh?
Chris.
oh, it's Chris. Why can't I get it right? Chris.
That's okay. That's why I'm here, to correct you.
Phil, come to yours again.
Can
Chris,
we
yeah,
meet
I would
with
really like
both
to-
Ernie and Chris?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wanna hear what they have to say, and then we can decide that's the direction we want to go, or if we would want to go someplace else,
Okay.
okay?
So, just, are you going to contact them, or would you like me to contact Ernie and Chris?
You have the contact information, right? Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it. And let's,
So what you're asking for is how to push the Broadwater County URL on Google using the website that we have currently, correct? Not creating a new website?
right.
Okay.
As a first conversation.
And I
Right.
guess I'm envisioning that once we do that, it will push us to whatever, it will push to the website that we develop,
Right,
correct?
right.
Okay. Does that make sense, Nicole?
No.
We're gonna develop a website, if it's gonna be Chris or one of these other companies that we
Okay,
talked about.
so we're transitioning away from townsendmt.com with the Broadwater.
In my
County
mind, yes, we need to have our own website, but we
Okay.
can use Townsend MT for people that are currently going there, or if they type in broadwatercounty.com, or is it townsendmt.com?
Townsendmt.com.
townsendmt.com, it will still push them to our website, whatever that happens to be.
It doesn't work that way. I would suggest that we table a new website for now. Let's get some details from Chris and from Ernie. One, I would like to hear from both of them, especially Chris, what can we do to spruce up townsendmt.com? It is not that the website is hard to find. It is not that it's hard to work with. It's that it's not habit. Whether we have a new website or the one we have now, it is not the new website is going to be the end-all to beat-all. What we have right now, the issues we have right now, will be the same whether we spend a couple $1,000s for a new website or not. With the key to any website is consistency and work in it, new information, relevant information, a calendar that is interactive, a person being able to Google what they're looking for, click on that, and take them to the page. It doesn't matter what the website is, it's the preliminary pieces that get you to the website, and then the interactive nature of the website that is the key. I am not an expert, that's why I want to hear from Ernie and Chris. What can we do to liven up what we have, and then get that URL push? What you're describing doesn't work. So
Well,
a URL.
here's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm looking down the road, I'm looking to the future. This website we have with Townsend MT is gonna easily be outgrown. And if we're gonna give folks the information to go to a county website, let's give them the right information from the beginning. To the website that we create and we feel is gonna do the job for us. I don't think that Townsend MT is gonna do the job for us. I don't.
Yeah, you say outgrown,
Yeah.
ours is unlimited. So I
I go to our website, I'm not impressed with it at all. And the information that I go to search for, I have to do multiple clicks to get to the information I need. It's not user-friendly.
Okay, then I would still like to hear from Chris and Ernie, because they are experts, we are not. You know what you don't like on ours,
Mhm.
can it be fixed? If the answer is no, which websites out there do you like and do you want us to marry? Which of those websites fit into the price structure that we have? Are these reputable companies? Do they work, or do we want to stay with the Click Right Designs, or do we want to go local? So if we answer question one and the answer is no, nothing can be done to update our website, or whatever other questions we have, and we go to number two, then we've got a whole list of other requirements. It is a process. Building a website is not, you click your fingers and tell someone to come in. It's about design, color, pictures, content, layout, one page, drop-downs. It is a very onerous
I
process.
understand that, and that's why we're gonna have somebody do that for us. The other thing is, we have to consider all our other departments are gonna contribute to this.
That is correct. And I would hope that there's no difference. All I'm asking for is let's hear from the experts about what we have first and decide with information how, if to move forward. Is that okay
Yeah.
with you to have that compromise?
Right? But I don't know if I consider Ernie and Chris experts, are they? Are they just good computer guys?
maybe you could ask those two to invite an expert beyond them to come to our meetings, so perhaps the designer of the website, so that we can ask some more targeted questions.
So, just so I'm clear, what am I asking them to come here for? So I have, can they assist us in making townsandmt.com more user-friendly? Do they know any computer experts to invite to meeting?
No, web experts.
Thank you, not computer, web experts to invite to meeting.
And I would suggest that perhaps you share some of this discussion. These are the issues that the commissioners are having. They're looking for, I don't think I need to reiterate everything, but yeah, maybe just share what our discussion was and kind of what, I think you got it already. How do we make it more user-friendly? How do we make it more dynamic? And are we in jeopardy of outgrowing it? And how do we push it with the URL, the search? That it?
Okay.
Is there more?
No, we'll have those conversations.
Brandon?
If I could just make a suggestion that you reach out to government's most wanted web pages, it's what the sheriff's office uses. And, you know, we could quite possibly work the sheriff's office and the county page together. I think it's a very attractive page for people. You even have an app on your phone that you can download, so you can just hit it and you get your updates, what you're talking about. Just a small suggestion to reach out to them, and I'd be happy to get you the contact information. It is more expensive than the websites that you have found, but you know, if you look at the cost that you guys were looking at, the postcards, it's well under that. So, and it's just that initial cost, and it's not that bad afterwards, but
Government's most wanted, is that
Yeah.
how we'll find it?
yeah, I mean, and if you guys have looked at our webpage,
I have.
you know, I think it's a well put together. It was not hard. They, what pictures do you want? We just call them with updates. It's really easy. And I think that, you know, if we already have that, if you guys looked at it, we could share links on our pages to those or all of them together. And I think the other thing is to hit the younger population even is the apps on your phone. You just have an app and then that website updates on that app, so.
That would be the other thing to look at, the app, I like that.
Do you guys do any of the updates yourself, Brandon, or do you just ask him to do it?
We do all the updates. The only
Okay.
things that we ask them to do is if we want to change any of the pictures, things like that.
The major layout
Yeah.
of the page itself?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and the other thing that thing does, that website does too, is like our jail roster. If you can go in and sign up for what updates, you go in as yourself and sign up, what updates do you want? You want the jail roster, any emergency updates, things like that, and it'll be emailed to you as we update it. So it's a really user-friendly website and good company to work with.
Okay, very good, thank you.
What was the
And
name of it?
interactive would be.
Government's most
One of the
wanted
questions.
website.
Government most wanted, okay. I thought that's what I heard. Thank you.
Yeah,
And it's attractive to think about a partnership with one of our departments, or all of our departments.
That's good. I mean, if we're gonna put this time, the effort and the money into this project, I want it to be the right project. I don't want it to be something that we're gonna be disappointed in down the road and it's not gonna work for us. So let's do our homework and let's get it right the first time.
I agree with that.
But I'm thinking, his website is so easy to use, and I am a computer nerd. And if I get into something that I can't manipulate, I turn it off and I never get the information. So, but that one is so easy to get into.
Yeah, I know, I've used your site, Brandon, and I think it's a very well put together site.
Thank you.
So with these requests to Ernie and Chris, do you want them to come to a meeting? Do you want them just to email? If I email this list of questions and then they can respond via email as opposed to coming in and having a meeting? Or do you want them to prepare to come to a meeting?
I'd like them to come to a meeting so we can ask questions.
Okay.
Because the conversation spurs more questions than what you can do.
I would like them to also come to a meeting, and I would like them to bring the designers so that we can ask some targeted questions as far as, you think it looks tired, what can we do to zip it up? What can we do to update it? The partnership, I think, is important. I don't know if we link with the sheriff's office, but we certainly should for the community. Is there something we can do to pep it up for the entire community?
Yep.
So I think it's worth having a discussion that way. And having the designer here, he can actually just put it on the TV and walk us through different questions and answers. Or tell us it's just, you know what, it is outdated, you guys do need your own.
Just a real quick question, considering basically BCDC and Ernie is working on the website that's currently in place, how much of the funding from the county that goes into BCDC is being used in that? Has that ever been broke down? Because I guess that's the question.
I can answer that question. A big goose egg. County pays nothing, it's a free service for us.
That's what I assumed it was.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
hear.
Nothing, Tim, not a dime, not a penny.
Okay,
It's a free service,
okay.
which is nice.
All right, thank you.
Goes to
So
the
I guess that I would agree with pretty much everything that's gone through. I think that I would kind of agree with Daryl that we need to have our own website, because we're always saying that we want to combine the south end and north end in Townsend, but if we end up stuck on the Townsend website, then maybe some people from Three Forks don't really want to go to a Townsend. They want Broadwater County information, not Townsend information. If they've never been to the Townsend site, then they don't know that county site's there. And they also look and say, well, all I'm getting is information on Townsend, I'm not getting information on the county. So I think that they would be more receptive to go into a Broadwater County site as far as our outreaching areas. And I think that we should have do the 3 monthly postcards and then go to quarterly, and then so if we send this postcard, you know, we talked about the issues of getting mail to the people in the south end of the county because they have Three Forks addresses, not necessarily Broadwater County addresses. So if we do the mailing, we can't get it to them because they don't have Broadwater address. So can we send that postcard to those people that came to the meeting with an email address? Or do we, you were talking about having them sign up, do we just want to send that first postcard out on email to those people that we have on a list? And then they can say, you know, don't send any more, or do send more, or?
Yes, to answer that, but I believe there's a way that I can work with the Three Forks Post Office to say, these are the addresses. I mean, I have all of the GIS data. I can put it into a format that, I can put it into an Excel database, I mean, however they would prefer to say, these are the addresses that need to receive this.
I think you're right, because they have a carrier that services that area.
Yes,
And they
just
would
like there's a carrier
just
for
ask
Austin
that.
or a carrier for the north end. I mean,
Right. And-
you know,
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Okay.
And we may overlap a little bit, but I don't think it's gonna be huge.
No, I don't think it would, I mean, again, would overlap. Something else I would just like to make a request, I suppose, of the commissioners. You know, the calendar, I think the county calendar can be such a useful tool. I've sent an email to every department head, as well as board managers requesting that they send me the agendas so I can get them on the website, and that worked for about a month. So you have more authority than I do. Is it possible that you, as commissioners, you really do?
I don't know how much we really have, Nicole, seriously.
But, you know, maybe to come from the commission that this is really important.
Yeah.
You know, I know I told you I pulled 3 agendas off the board, I put them back. You know, I borrowed them for a minute, scanned them in, and got them on the calendar, but that was Monday.
Yeah.
The meetings are this evening. it's so important that we're relevant, and we talked about this at the very beginning when we were managing, or, you know, talking about managing the site, and we did really good on the front end, and then now it's the agenda, that's all I'm getting,
Yep.
you know.
And that's actually something we can talk about in our department head meeting.
Right,
We can discuss it there, but you brought up a point that I guess I do want to discuss. If we are having a problem with people taking the agendas off the boards as we post them, and sadly enough, we've come to the point where we actually have to take a picture of us posting the agenda on the board to prove that we've done it. And we hear so many times, it was never posted, I've never seen it. Well, they are being posted. Somebody is removing them from the board. I guess I'd like to say, please do not remove them when we post them. And I ask that, please, don't do that. It makes it tough on everybody.
Amen on that.
All right, thank you. Maybe you could suggest that, Tim, in one of your articles. Please don't remove our agendas from the posting boards. Now. All right, I got on my soapbox, I banged it a little
A
bit.
point to that, I had to repost today's because somebody had already taken it down.
Yeah. I posted our mosquito board meeting, went back and all but one of those postings were gone within 3 days. So, anyway.
Can you go to a sealed case with the glass?
seriously,
With the key.
With a long,
Just do like the outdoor case and put it on the inside?
Well, then somebody will break the glass.
Hopefully we don't have
Now
to
we've got a
do that,
hazard.
But gee
Yeah,
we
whiz.
will happily make copies of agendas.
Yeah.
From the mission.
Put a camera up there.
To that note, I think that the city hall, they have a bulletin board outside that is useful. I use it.
Yeah.
You know, is that something we
And it
consider
isn't
here?
even glassed in.
And it's not even glassed in, you know, but
It used to be
it's-
glassed in, didn't it?
I don't know, it hasn't been
Somebody
for a long
broke the
time.
glass.
I would like to
What's that?
see.
Didn't the bulletin board at the city hall used to have glass over it? And then it got broke.
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
so my instructions are to contact Ernie and Chris Vasquez. Ask if they can assist us with making townsendmt.com more user-friendly, a little more vibrant, keeping the issues relevant. Are we in jeopardy of outgrowing the site? Can we make it more interactive? Can they invite their experts to a commissioner meeting? And then I'm also going to look into this government's most wanted web service.
Okay, perfect.
Is that correct? Those
Yes.
are,
I would
Yeah.
like comparisons. So if you are gonna look into government's most wanted, I would also like you to look into SkyPoint Studios, Municipal Impact, and Chris Velasquez as the #1 since he's local.
okay.
I think we need to have some compare and contrast.
All right, Dave, have a question?
Who's that?
Dave?
I'd just like to echo what you said, Mike. I think it's important that if somebody does a Google search on Broadwater County and it comes up Townsend MT, most people that aren't familiar with it, unless they've used it, won't go there. They say, I don't want to go to Townsend, I want Broadwater County. I think it's really important to have an identifiable URL, even if it's not what we might expect it to be, but it can be deciphered as being the county website.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I kind of want to add in a way of communicating, a different way. I have been in contact with a couple different folks on audio and video for our commission chambers. So that is in progress, and we're waiting for responses on how we can do that and what costs and things like that will be. So we'll present that at another time.
Okay.
Just want everybody to know that we are working that way.
I know some vendors too that go that way.
You do?
Yeah, we use, with interview rooms
Oh,
and
yeah,
things
there you
like
go.
that. and
Perfect.
so-
Pass it on, Brendan. Yep.
I'm good?
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Okay, Brandon Harris, Undersheriff, lease plan for the sheriff's office
Nicole.
vehicle replacement.
Thank
plan.
you. A lot more than what you expected when you came down this morning, huh?
Did anybody look through my email that I sent? Alright.
Got it.
So, you know, I'm really up in the air whether this is gonna be a good thing or not. It does concern me to be tied into something, but, I guess I'm looking for some input from you guys and
Yeah.
we can have a conversation, I guess, so.
So, I guess just kind of to get an idea how this works, he is going to basically buy the fleet?
I don't,
Other than your,
yeah,
other than your staff vehicles, is that right?
he proposed that. I see no reason to purchase administrative vehicles.
Right.
Because they last a lot longer than the patrol vehicles. So he said we can do all the vehicles, we can do one vehicle, we can do 2, 3, whatever we see is necessary, but I don't know. I don't know if it's a good deal or not. They make 4% interest or 4.5% interest off of what you're.
Now, in some of these, it says at the end of, we own it at the end of the lease. What is that?
We own it, or they'll sell it for us.
Okay.
Or sell it for what is left at the end of the lease. I mean, it's
Okay.
like, it's the same, it's just a bank. It's not General Motors or Ford or anything. They are a bank. It's basically like your car that you guys buy if you get a loan. And, you know, the last payment in your book is not your last payment. You gotta call, get the payoff. You know?
Right.
So,
Whatever the value of the vehicle is at the end of that lease,
yeah,
that, so basically, okay, go ahead.
they have people that are in the market of buying old police cars. A lot of taxi companies do.
Yeah.
So, and they get sent off to bigger cities and they
Mhm.
become a taxi. So, they have people that are lined up to buy these. And he's, on that sheet that you have is an estimate of what they would be worth at the end of their life. And they would purchase them and we would get either, if it's paid off, the whole amount or what's left on that, so.
Okay. Towards the purchase of another,
Yeah, they would write us a check, it would just basically go into our CIP, but, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, so, I mean, like, somebody's, I mean, you're paying the same amount basically you would up front and then a little bit more, but just over, it's just like getting a loan for your car, so.
right.
I just don't know if I wanna be tied into a whole fleet or not, so, of vehicles.
So what happens if, say for example, we decide to, is there a contract with this lease?
Yeah,
For
it would be a 5-year lease.
5-year, okay.
Yep, for each car, you know, however you implement them into the stages of your fleet management program.
So do you think 5 years works for you guys with your turnover rate?
I think that it's gonna be a little bit of a stretch, but we typically, by the time we get the new car, 5 years is kind of already happened, by the time the new car comes in. So, I mean, if you see on there, you know, we have some 2011s, 14s, so I mean, it's, you know, those are on the 5-year plus line there. My concern would be to do 5 years and then have to wait to get the new car, because it takes, you know, probably 8 months, 9 months, for a police car to be built, because they only, Ford and Chevy and Dodge factories only build police cars twice a year. In October and I believe April, they switch their lines up to switch all that.
So how would this work for, so you able to anticipate, you know, if your vehicle's coming up, you'd be able to anticipate the build date so that the new one could be there when the lease expires for that? Would you be able to do that?
You could,
Okay. Without having to, I guess,
Yeah.
without having to pay money up front, right?
yeah.
Through these guys?
Yep, they would just finance the vehicle, then you could, you know, get that one on, and then when that one comes in, they would sell your other one. I mean, there's plus and minuses. I know there's a old sheriff's deputy, undersheriff in the back of the room that might have an opinion, but, about leasing programs, but,
Sure.
or some input, but, if you wanted to talk about it.
I'd be interested in hearing, I know you guys
I think-
had some experience with it.
Well, we went through those gyrations back in the late eighties and came to the conclusion that leasing in the long run, in the big picture, cost the county money. That it couldn't afford to spend and went a different path in managing the fleet. But in today's world, I think, can we reach out to Mako with a quick email and ask them to survey counties as to who's doing this today?
Right.
Can we go to the Sheriff's Association and send a quick email to the members and say, have you looked at this, up or down, you know, what your reasoning for it? And see what some, because what I'm talking about is, that's history. I mean, there's officers out there that were born when we were doing that, so.
Right.
But if we're short on money, the sheriff's short on money, we're not funding it now, but, and then to have the first thing that they have to put in their budget, is the cost of a lease contract for vehicles, and that's ahead of wages for employees, when we don't have the revenue stream. I just think you need to be really, really cautious here.
Well, I mean, I look at this, if it was something we did, it's just the cost of doing business. Same as if we went to purchase a new car for ourselves and we couldn't pay for it all, we would, you know, we'd make our down payment on it and we make payments, and that's just how we do it. Is there any benefit to us owning our fleet?
I mean, they're just paid for up front, I guess.
It's basically the same kind of money, just we're structuring it a different way.
Yeah.
Well, I think you need to ask the question of the vendor, and use the case with the car shot up.
Well, that was actually one of my questions right
It's
here.
in the fine print, in the contract, and you really, really gotta get into that.
So, we would hold the same insurance on the cars. I did talk to them about wrecking vehicles and things like that. And, you know, basically, it would be a totaled out patrol car, and we would get, insurance money that would, you know, pay for that. How that works out with obviously paying that car off and getting a new one,
Sure.
or what, I don't know that at 100%.
My question came, I mean, I can see how that probably is gonna work insurance-wise. My question came for the situation, unfortunately, that we're in with Mason's car. It's seized as evidence, we can no longer use the vehicle. They own the vehicle, are we still gonna have to continue to pay on that vehicle when that happens, or how would that work?
That was an insurance claim, so the vehicle was, we were paid out at the depreciated value of the vehicle. Mako, we insure all of our equipment in the vehicles, so it was, I don't know, a $10,000 check for the car and roughly $24,000 check for the equipment in the vehicle.
So the vehicle really isn't ours anymore?
Mako has no interest in the vehicle, so at some day it will come back to the county, but I, wouldn't expect it for
So we did
10
receive the
years
value,
down the road.
approximately what the car was worth in the equipment.
Same as you go out and wreck a car, a personal car,
Okay.
what happened, other than the insurance company didn't go pick it up and take it.
Sure.
And they have no plans to go pick up and take it when the case is over and the car's done as evidence, then the county would receive that car back. What they do with it at that time is up to people in charge.
The other question, I don't know if you guys asked this question, is there going to be a limit of mileage? Is there going to be a cap on it?
There's no, he does, there's no cap on the miles.
Okay.
However, he does an estimate of what we do a year, so I said anywhere from 25 to 35,000 miles a year on each patrol car. And then he does an estimate of what that vehicle's worth at the end of that 5 years, and that's where you see that,
Right.
that
So it just
what they would
basically
buy it
affects
back
the value of the vehicle at the end of the lease.
lease.
No penalty. That's the main
No,
thing.
no penalties, it just was, affects that value and what your buyout is at the end, or what's left, and if any, yes.
So does this lease cover all maintenance, or we're still,
All maintenance, no.
we're still in charge of the
Yeah,
maintenance?
they are our vehicles, just writing a check monthly, quarterly, or whatever you decide yearly for the vehicles. He is open to questions if you guys, you know, might be a good person for you guys to talk to. 'Cause I've never dealt with this before. You know, I do have concerns about, being tied down to, yes, this is how much you're gonna pay every year, cause, you know, we have had those years where we've gotten, like last year, you know, county paid for half, the city paid for the other half of the vehicle. So it was $20,000 that the county, put in, you know, into the CIP, and it's,
Well, I guess I envision in my mind, if, you know, we're always wanting to put money into your CIP to keep the purchase of these vehicles going. Is that really kind of the same thing? I mean, we still would be putting that money into the CIP to pay this lease.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
yeah, you would still have to put money in to
Right.
make the payment, cause like, what David said, we would have to, if that money didn't, it would have to come out of our budget.
Right.
And that comes out over employees and things like that, which, you know, definitely concerns me if that money.
Right.
And we basically, Laura, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but for the life of, since I've been at the sheriff's office, we've used PILT funding to purchase sheriff's office patrol vehicles. Am I correct there?
Yeah, I think that's really been the only source, or maybe your entitlement share.
Yeah.
But it hasn't come from the savings in your budget, because it just hasn't been there. So yeah, we've helped out with other sources.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
When you were at your, you met this guy at the MSPO meeting, right?
yeah,
So I'm sure that he's been doing this with other agencies, right?
I think you mentioned possibly Lincoln County he did it with. I did talk to our vendor that upfits our patrol vehicles. He did say if you go with a leasing company, they're good to lease with because you choose your equipment, you choose your vehicles. They're just a bank, they just loan you the money basically. So you're not tied down to a specific vehicle or anything like that, or specific equipment. You can take what equipment you can to transfer to the new equipment, but everybody seems to be like to changing their models and body styles, which has cost, you know, law enforcement a lot more money because some equipment doesn't transfer.
So let's say in the situation like we were talking, we would like to take one of our vehicles and for Mike Conkey, if he would purchase out of his budget, could we still do something like that?
Yeah, you would basically buy out what's left of that
Whatever
lease.
that value is?
Yeah, so if it was,
Okay,
if it's, you know, for what he's saying is, if it's 5,000, saying the vehicle's for 8, you just have to write that Bank Corp a check for the remainder of the lease, and then you can take that vehicle and do what you please with. As of right now, you know, they're paid for, and if the county needed it, it wouldn't cost you anything, so.
sure.
It's just what are we looking at, paying up front and paying in the long run, so.
Well, I mean, you guys have invested in a vehicle, whatever its value is, I don't think it's fair just to give it to somebody else. You still need to see the return on your, whatever the value of your vehicle is. In my mind.
Yeah, that's, I mean, anything to help out's, you know, good, but, when it does come from PILT, you know, whatever
I
you
understand that.
guys see fit, so.
Okay.
The one thing I would advise is that if you go down this road, that you review that mileage every year. And if you have a deputy or a paradeputy sharing your car and they put 35,000 on and you got one guy using the car and he puts 20,000 on, you need to rotate those cars to keep the mileage even, because when it comes to the end of the lease period, that mileage becomes very important, and you might be disappointed in the results from the leasing company when they tell you the value of vehicles and what you have to pay. It's never really clear unless you have experience with it and can read that contract properly.
You know, we did that exact same thing, David, when we had our grader fleet up there with 10 graders, and that's exactly what happened. We had some of our outline areas didn't put as many hours on it, so we would rotate those through, so that at the end of that period, we had guaranteed buybacks. It was a little bit different scenario, but anyway, and that's what we would do. Pretty easily managed. How about, what's our average warranty on our vehicles? Is it 3 years or is it 5 years? I think it's different for different components, right?
Yeah, well, I couldn't tell you, I think it's pretty normal, like your normal car, so 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
But I think
So many miles,
So many
you tend to
miles.
hit that mileage a little sooner than your
Right.
normal vehicle.
Okay. So do you kind of see that you guys are starting to run out of warranty in that 3-year period
Oh, yeah,
pretty easily?
yeah,
Basically from mileage,
yeah, for
Not-
mileage,
not time, but mileage.
yeah. So, like my vehicle ran out of warranty from time, you know,
Mhm.
versus the mileage.
Sure.
The only thing that you wouldn't be able to do with rotating through administration is we don't have camera systems or radars and things like that. And like right now, our administrative are not patrol cars, not police pursuit vehicles, which is a huge thing that we want to stay with. But I think maybe somebody from your table reaches out to Bob and talks, you get a lot more questions answered than me. You know, I'm kind of hoping for definitely all-in kind of thing from all of us. Because I'm, you know, it does concern me, because as you can see, you do get a big check in the mail, which looks great, but then you look at down the road, you know, you're paying $104,000 a year. You know, you're gonna get 2 years without paying nothing, but it's
Yeah, but if we were able to contribute to your CIP during those years, you should still have that money there to purchase new vehicles when that time comes.
yeah, you could work out a structure of, okay, we have to put this much in this year, this much this year, and kind of a plan that out to keep it, the CIP above water during that 5 years.
Is,
Oh, yes.
yeah, where's
Right,
Bob, where's
yeah.
Bob from? Where's Bob from?
You know, I don't really know. What's his address here? Utah,
Oh, okay.
so, and his information's right at the bottom, he's pretty good about answering his cell phone, so.
I have a list of questions, but I think I will take them to Bob, because I think what you're gonna say is I don't know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's good for everybody
Yeah.
to reach out to Bob and,
I guess in my mind, I wondered if we contact him, if he would happen to be in Montana or in this area, that he would be willing to stop in and talk with all of us, so we can,
Or a conference
or
call. was
a
probably-
conference
probably
call, maybe
more of a-
would be fine too.
yeah.
I think that that's probably a good,
I don't know that he would be back here for a little while, because you had MPPA's conference, sheriff's conference, and he does hit those up, but,
Yeah.
definitely,
all right, you guys would be up to set up a conference call?
yeah.
Mhm.
I think that'd be
Yeah.
good, okay? All right, we'll work that way.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for doing the research. It's intriguing to think about, depending, or regardless of the direction we go. I'm glad that we have the options to be talking about.
And this is the only one, you know, program that I've looked into
Oh,
too.
sure.
So I mean, you know, there might be better options. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. And, you know, would that be better for Broadwater County? And also the sheriff's office for a plan, you know, vehicle rotation.
Did you guys talk about adding additional vehicles to the fleet, say, you know, or someday down the road, we do hire another deputy and he needs a vehicle? It just roll right in pretty easily?
You go to him and you tell him, this is my bid for the vehicle, here's the equipment, and this is what we're gonna transfer, and
Okay.
they write it up. I mean, he did ours in probably half an hour at that bid for us, so I mean, it just would be adding
Okay.
a vehicle. Basically, that's just going out and buying one and tell them to write the check, so, sign a few papers.
So if you did do this, what would it do to your rotation of vehicles?
It just, well,
Do we just continue on the same program we're on right now, or is
Yeah,
there going to
you
be a
have-
certain?
No, you have this, see, the one with the green writing on it.
Mhm.
So basically, he's already taken into the account of miles, so the vehicle we just got, you know, we would have that for 5 years.
Okay.
The 2019 Chevy Tahoe, we would have for 5 years.
Okay,
The 2018 Ford Expedition, we would have for 5 years, and then all these other ones are basically the next three, the 11, 10, and 9, the Ford Explorers, would be rotated out, and that's how much he's saying they're worth. And then when you get into like the 16, the F-150s there, one would be 3 years, 4 years, then 4 years,
Okay.
and you can see that those start rotating out at those times.
Right, so you could, if you decided you wanted to manage your fleet differently, you could set up that schedule. So you decided that there's some of these you might wanna rotate out earlier than what you thought. So it's, I guess where I'm going with this, you could say, I wanna rotate at least 2 or maybe 3 vehicles every 3 years, or every 5 years. You could get that rotation set up.
Yeah, you
And
could
the values of the vehicles would obviously change.
yeah, you would
If you wanted
basically
to do that, but.
be selling the vehicle and buying out the
Mhm.
remainder of the lease to them,
Mhm.
and then, you know, get a new vehicle. You could really do it to where you could switch it, and every 5 years you're just buying a new fleet.
Or a
you know?
whole new fleet.
Yeah,
You can set it up either way. You're
Yeah.
either replacing a whole fleet, or you know that every 3 years, once you get on that schedule, that you have a new vehicle, or 2 new vehicles coming in.
yeah.
Or once a year, however you decide you want to manage it. Okay. Now, do you have a question?
yes.
Does anybody put a pencil with the cost of the interest on this program, the total dollars you're talking about? Because if it's $24,000 in equipment and a vehicle, that, at 4.5% interest, that worked out to about $1,000 a year times 5 years, that's $5,000. That's the computation that we came to the conclusion that the cost of a lease program was more expensive than trying to manage it. So I just encourage you to make sure you include your finance charges in that evaluation, that's all I'm saying.
And that's the part that I'm not good at figuring out, so I would need somebody to look into that, so.
Okay,
Great.
thank you, Brandon,
Yeah.
thanks for your work.
Thanks, Brandon.
Are you guys gonna reach out to Bob, or for the conference call, or would you like me to? I just don't know about your schedules.
I think we could, don't you, Joe?
Yeah, was his contact information on your email?
Yep, right at the bottom of his,
Okay.
that I attached, so.
Yeah, just in case.
Okay, Debbie Kelly, Finance Officer.
Go ahead, Debbie, I'm just gonna hand that to you. Right at the bottom of there.
Installing.
Debbie, I'm gonna take 2.
Heading right back.
for doing that.
Worksheet,
Mine was getting pretty chicken scratched up.
because I was, wanted to see where the Wheatland turn lane proceeds went. So I noted when, in total, in the journal, so if we need to go back and track them, we can, and where some of that money was spent last year. So we kind of have an idea of what those proceeds, what's left. So when we look at this year's budget, it's all in this one little piece of paper instead of 10 different reports.
Yeah.
And some of these things, I highlighted. Do we still wanna, you guys decide you're gonna still do your yearly donations, like to CASA Advocate for Kids? Those are some of my questions, some of those annual donations, we can still do those. Veterans, I left that on there from last year, and that indigent burials, some of those, the total includes everything that's on there, including some others that we looked at adding for this year. So it kind of gives you an idea at the end of next year where we might be sitting if we spent all this.
Okay. So this is the current requested amount in this first column, Debbie?
Everything in there is history that we have spent money on, like county match grants, and then the darker and the bold is this year's request towards the bottom
Okay.
in that column. That's why in the note section, budgetary approval is still there, because in the past, that's where I note all that, but this is new for this year, so there's not much in there. So we can track it and have a way to keep order of it instead of meeting minutes and reports. This is my little document to make sure I haven't missed something somewhere.
Okay. So that cash balance there, that is what we currently have left over from this year and what's been transferred in for new PILT payment, is that correct?
So at 6:30, we got our new PILT payment,
Yep.
which was retro for this last year,
Mm-hmm.
added to the cash.
Okay,
We had a total of $958,000
Okay.
as of June 30th.
okay.
And then that 645 is everything, if everything is approved to pay in the unspent column,
Right,
that's what that would be. Don't know what next year's PILT's supposed to be, I guess the same, or close to the same as this year. So then the estimated balance in theory would be the cash we would have at the end of this new fiscal year in 20.
so the estimated balance there, that's where we would be
That's what.
based on what you was right, okay, gotcha.
Mhm. So it gives an idea, and that doesn't include some of these other little things we've talked about
Right,
that aren't on here that were thrown out there. I know we've had to help solid waste. That might be an issue, and some of the other, I think that's why assist is left blank. Cash report last night, I looked at cash,
yeah.
and they're like 301 in the negative.
How much?
Right.
301,000. And I know Michelle still has some more claims for last fiscal year. It's kind of pending. They're in the process of getting entered, they've been turned in. So that one's a tough one. I'm watching it, but until we get all our 18-19 claims, payroll's done, so that won't go anymore, but until we get all the 18-19 claims done, I don't see that number changing until the new assessment year, or, I just don't know. So that's a big chunk. So now we're waiting for the loan from the Board of Investments, right?
I don't,
Yeah,
has
they
it been
put-
applied for? It's not come to us to sign.
No, I haven't seen anything.
Which one was that?
Thought Mary was looking at Board of
Oh,
Investments for a
yeah.
loan. I haven't seen anything.
Okay, I didn't, I haven't either. I know that
I
we did get
heard.
an email on
Our other loan, we
our
got
other
an email
one was
that
on
was
Yeah.
Community Bank, so,
Yeah,
yeah, so
that's exciting.
okay,
Yeah,
So we need to share that with Tyler, but that's another subject.
okay. So I guess when I go through this report here, our cash report, and I see all these negative balances, or some negative.
Some negative, this is
Some,
a,
but there's some. I guess I don't know all the history on that and where we're at.
And one
With
thing
that.
that we don't know, I mean, that's one piece of a very large puzzle. Until we have the tax levy requirements report completed, which probably will be Monday, we won't know. The cash report is one piece of that,
Right.
and there's 11 columns.
Right.
So it gives you an idea, it's one piece of 11 total pieces. Until we see how each of those columns equates to the total, we can't really make any solid
Right.
decision.
Yeah.
Right.
We
Okay.
don't know where we're at yet.
I got started on it with using, just to kind of give us an idea, just like we did with our preliminary budget, the revenues that we had the same as last year. But that was just the tax revenues. I haven't gotten all the non-tax revenues added to that yet. So it's not a full picture yet. And I didn't want to bring it half full and,
So do you think that we received it, like on the solid waste thing, that they've received all of their revenues to this point? Or
I
they're
think
still-
at this point, we've gotten pretty much everything we're gonna get. I know there was, Doug had, a few- there's always stragglers.
Mhm.
I think I saw a report, well, it should show like a transfer in, which would be revenues that have come in or charges for services, anything like that. And where to go?
One of the things that Mary has found through this new process is that a lot of people who thought they were paying assessments are not.
Right.
So I would expect her revenue to increase this year as we get a stronger sense of how many people have not been assessed the fee.
Right, and then I think we're also realizing a lot of fees that were never paid before.
Exactly,
You know, so that's another part of this equation.
yeah.
I know up to this point, from what Mary said, we are saving quite a bit of money in tipping fees and transport.
Right, so we should be able to see that in expenses too, and use some of those facts
Right,
with the tax levy requirements report.
so I think from the financial standpoint, I think the plan's working. Can we talk just a little bit, Debbie, about the silos account? I mean, to me, it looks like we're not bringing in near enough the revenue for the expenditures that are happening there.
Seems like there's been more expenses again to repair the docks and things than the revenue that's coming in. And that's a tough one to balance. I know she pays, JSJ pays a certain amount of the fees to the county. And if that's not enough, but if it costs more to fix stuff than what she's able to turn in, is that, you know, that's where the contracts, do they go out for bids? I just don't know how all that's supposed to play out.
Sure.
Well, and I think you showed us that we went behind when we put in the docks.
We did.
And not enough money was set aside for that. That is not on Sharon, it's on us. So,
Can you
My
tell me
report
what
is-
happened there? That
I
was kind
think-
of before my time.
the trust board funded the purchase of the docks, that were, I'd say, the silos now, and they were bought from the old Goose Bay
Okay.
docks. They were shipped across the lake, it was kind of cool. There's a lot of different things that happened, but we agreed with the trust board to their offer of a grant to pay for those docks. As the different, construction and permits and all that came in, the trust board did not cover some of those costs, the sinking fund did. Sinking fund being
Yeah.
a industry name for an account that Silos pays 10% of their income every year to a sinking fund to pay for all the repairs of the silos. They could certainly take all that money and just put it to the repairs of the docks that was not funded by the trust board for 4 or 5 years ago, and it should have been. Or they can use it as they have continued to for fire rings, tables,
Right.
bathroom repairs, vandalism repairs, all those things. So she has a finite amount of money to work with to maintain our facility. The trust board has been a partner in that, but they just fell a little bit short. What do we do about that? PILT or trust board? I think those are the two questions. Asking our concessionaire to pay it out of her personal pocket, not gonna fly with the contract. And it's inappropriate for that to be a discussion.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious of how we got to that point, and that, I understand that,
Yeah,
so, okay.
yeah, all I can do is give you the history,
Yep.
not the whys.
That's all I'm interested in. Okay,
I think we anticipated with the docks and the extra gazebos to generate enough revenue to offset that, and it just hasn't.
She did write a $10,000
Donation.
check
Mhm.
last year. This was a discussion she had in private with Steve McCullough. He had wanted her to pay 20% the proceeds for the docks. She had agreed, but the commission did not. It would have taken complete rewrite of the contract, maybe should have been done at the time, was not feasible. And it also was against the contract, which means that we would have been out on a limb that we shouldn't have been on. So it remained at 10%. That was a lot of the issue that culminated with the trust board versus the recreation board this year.
sure.
So an agreement between Steve and Sharon was that Sharon would write a check to make everything even to the recreation board, well, to the trust board, and they gave it to the recreation board. That still leaves a deficit here that the trust board didn't fund with the construction of those docks.
So I remember that happening. Was that again, I'm just gonna ask the question, was that the right place for that to go to the rec board, or should it have gone to the sinking fund?
It shouldn't have gone to either.
Okay,
That was not money that Sharon owed. That
Oh,
was a
okay.
gift she
Okay.
made
okay,
as a result of a private conversation
Okay.
between her and Steve.
all right.
So,
All right, fair enough.
That was one of my 24 questions.
Okay,
good.
We got one down, check. Yep.
23 to go.
Yeah. Most of them, I think, will be pretty simple. One of them was on the PILT. We got legal fund, was the same amount as bar, so I just wanted to clarify that wasn't a double entry. And I told no.
That is correct. Can I mention something though that's a little off topic but very much on topic? We at conference, we had a session with the chief of the fire, chief of the sheriff, and the chief of DES in Las Vegas. 2 years ago, they had a domestic terrorist from the Mandalay Bay window shoot and kill 58 people and wound a whole lot more. So what we talked about in this, what they talked about was the aftermath, the healing process, the divisions that were caused, all the horrible things that go with something like that. And one of the commissioners who was through a very similar situation in Florida said, I see one of the biggest problems is with the repeated use of these offenders' names. The sheriff from Las Vegas said, there was a previous domestic terrorist who killed a bunch of people, and I think this was in Denver, I don't remember where. In his video prior to the act, he said, they will remember my name, they will repeat my name, gross stuff like that. What do we have on this sheet but the name of a heinous individual? What is all over the newspapers? I would like to request, and this was an agreement in this room at the Justice and Public Safety Committee, was that we no longer use the names of these perpetrators over and over and over again. They are not the ones who should be remembered. And so I would like to rename this particular fund, which I will not name, the Nobody Litigation Fund. That's about as polite as, I think we should be fairly polite. I will tell you some of the names that came out from that meeting I won't repeat in this meeting, but I think we need to name it. Other than what it's named, we all know what it's for. We can have a note of what it's for, but I want the official name to be changed. Nobody Litigation Fund, because he is a nobody. Are you guys in agreement?
I have no problem on my end.
You could could change it on the computer?
Yeah,
Thanks, all right.
it's easy. And it has its own fund for tracking purposes, so. I don't have an issue
That
with
will
it.
work out for your auditors.
Yeah, because they'll know what it is. Because it's got its own account. I can see the point. Because when you say the name, what comes to your face is face.
Right, I don't ever see it again.
Yeah. So I can see the psychological aspect of that,
Mhm.
mental.
Yeah. Especially when you see how much money we're spending every year on this. It shouldn't be on just so many levels.
I've got a question. Using the term nobody, while it has some sense of relief when you talk about it this way, but really, when you leave this room and you go out on the street, you're just making it stand out, maybe even more than the defendant's name. You might be better off considering major crimes litigation fund or some more appropriate.
Case number.
Some special prosecuting fund or something
Because
like
you're-
that. That's what I'm kind of trying to.
You're calling him a different name,
Running
but
it
it's
through my
still
mind.
him.
I'm fine with any of those.
Yeah.
My issue is not
Yeah.
what we choose, my issue is getting his name off of
Sure.
it.
I
And
understand
I'm unbending on that,
I'm
because
just
I think
thinking
it's
there's something
extremely important.
Little
Yeah,
different.
we were struggled when we set this fund up.
Yeah,
We can just call it the litigation fund, I don't care
this is.
what we call it.
Yeah.
I care that his name is off. And I would pledge right now that we never ever again use that name in a public meeting.
Take that out of there, it's easy.
All right, thank you. And it's my hope that the legal fund, we will not need that much, but it's very likely we will. And that's just pending commission decisions.
So do we know what would solid waste be if we have to put that in?
If we go with the cash account, it's 301,000.
It's what?
If we look with what's in cash, so that we're not in a negative cash, it's 301,000, would be what we'd have to do right now.
That's how much we have to put in there?
Mm-hmm. So take it out of the negative, it's the 300, I think when I pulled this, Monday when I pulled this. $301,645.59, we're in the negative with solid waste right now. And that doesn't include any additional claims that need to be paid or any trickle in revenues, fees, charges for services, fines yet. Now Mary's working on that, and I put a bunch of stuff in the mailbox Monday, what looked like checks, so probably charges or fees for services.
Will you let us know what date you choose for the cash report for the tax levy requirements, so we can be all on the same date?
Yeah, it's, Michelle's got a set date for all the claims to be done for last fiscal year. And once they're done, anything that's for last year that comes in is gonna come out of the rebudget of prior year services line. Just because we can't keep it open for 6 months while people's claims struggle in, it's not, it'll just have to come out, it'll show, but just not as a revenue or expense line. We're gonna get hard on that date this year, and the more stragglers we're pushing it, so, because we gotta have a point to close.
Yeah.
Moving forward, so that as we do our budget, it's not gonna change on us 50 times as straggling revenues come in, or last little minute claims because somebody forgot to fill it out, came in paper, a case of paper. $30 doesn't seem like much, but in our world, it makes a big difference in a point in time that we're trying to go for accuracy and.
Yeah, just let us know that date, so
Yeah.
we're all on the same
So
page.
that's kind of why that tax levy sheet, I haven't pushed it yet because I was trying to get a little more time.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna pick a point in time and just go update, because we got, now that the preliminary is done, that document will be our main go-to document as things come in and change a little bit as cash, we tweak budgets, where we're sitting with our reserves and things. That'll be our snapshot for that. And that's one of those documents that has to go with our budget to the state anyway, so.
so we'll have to make sure the cash report's at 0, but we also should be a little less than the 301 by taking into account Mary's plan for solid waste.
And I think she was a couple months behind on submitting tipping fees or getting the bills in, or they were a couple months lag getting it to, I don't remember which. So I know there's another month's bills for June still in the query to pay yet.
Okay. May I ask another question on the PILT sheet? On the bottom right corner, under the Wheatland turn lanes, the Make Fair Search and Rescue Museum Airport in lieu of Mills. I understand why we did that, $20,059. I would like that to come out of the general PILT funds under description of request on the left-hand side. Because the Wheatland turn lane, since that money was specifically derived from economic development, I'd like to see that money specifically spent for economic development. It's still coming out of PILT, but just a change in columns is all.
Yes.
Thank you. And that was money we took after, with the budget immediately after Mason Moore's murder, that we shifted to public safety and then agreed to pay those departments back the next year.
We were just
That was
shy for
reserves.
those 4 last year of the full,
Yeah.
that was my mistake.
So,
So that would replenish those funds then?
yeah, they already were.
Yeah, they were already
Oh,
spent
no,
last year.
oh,
So this
they
was
did.
just a little information
Gotcha.
corner.
Yeah.
Because it
Alright.
was just lumped into the PILT was where it was put in, and so
Gotcha.
it was to kind of keep,
Okay,
I got it in the wrong
so this
place.
has already been done?
Yep, it's been done, so that'll just change what's left by that 20,059
Okay.
to 72 something. Should be on there.
So if we do the website, I think we'll need to increase that communication fund by just another 5 or 7.
So
Do you guys want to leave it at 10 for now, or do you want to increase it to 17?
Yeah. I know this is gonna probably take us a little bit more money to do this, but I think it's worth it. I mean, I really do,
So 17?
yeah.
Okay.
which was another question, and
Yeah, look at yours.
at first I added that newsletter line to the commissioner's line,
Mhm.
object 310. And you guys submitted 3,000. But then a request came, you didn't want it as part of your commission budget, so a separate account was set up, and that was 411-300. I'm assuming that's part of the website and newsletter? Or is there 2 different communication types of things going on here?
Oh, there's 2 different ones. So could this money be used to fund that one in the general fund?
Because it's still in the general fund. The 411-300 is in the general fund, it's just got its own account, so it's not mapped into any one specific department.
Okay,
And it's called Central Communications. But I wasn't sure, because I don't get to all the meetings, if there was 2 different
Okay.
reasons I did this and didn't know at the time, or if I've got a separate, duplicate in this.
what would you suggest, Debbie? I see the central communications here. Would you suggest at this point, PILT or general, or would still be general fund,
Still general fund.
fund it? What do you think?
It just would come out of a different accounts for tracking. If you don't want it in yours, I think a separate account, because if, I don't know. Yes, it's commissioners, but communications, really is all of us.
But it still needs to
So-
be in control of the commission because
Yeah,
we are the,
yeah,
that's our job,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
by law,
It'd just be one of those other accounts you have control over
yeah.
versus another department.
So, maybe we should just leave it funded from PILT for now, and if we have the money in the general fund, when we get the tax levy requirements report, then we can make that decision.
Okay.
Would that work
Yeah.
for you for bookkeeping?
Mhm. I
Okay.
can show note transfer. You've got 10,000 on here, so you're gonna move it to 17?
Yeah,
That a tenth, okay.
and then we'll vote on that in open meetings, maybe
I
on
don't
Monday?
think it'll take that much, but,
No,
I mean, I really don't.
Yeah.
But with our conversations we've had here, I don't think it's gonna take that much money, but I guess,
Well, once you get this going, it might not be necessary to do it every month and put it back. As more people learn of it, families can share, and it could decrease as things get better. But I think to start with, you know, like in Monday's meeting, somebody doesn't read the newspaper, doesn't do the internet and computer and all that electronic stuff, so they've missed out on a lot of communications that we've had in meetings and in the paper, whether it's solid waste or road or what you guys are doing. And I think this might be an alternative, because it just goes to the general box holder and not anybody's name. Even if they're living in the county, they're gonna get it, so it's not specific to Joe Blow, Steve Smith, or myself. It's for everybody to know.
and I think that's our plan, to initially do that.
Okay, that wasn't my question. So the two are separate, right? The communication and transport in Commissioner's Line 310 and the central communications are two separate things.
yes and no.
Okay.
The PILT Communication Fund is going to currently pay for the central communications budget.
Okay. Just wanna make sure, because it's two different
Yeah,
things I have to do.
and we'll reevaluate after we get tax levy requirements for it. All right,
Okay.
so what else do you have, Debbie? That should be, we're down to 22 questions?
Yeah, something like that. Just kind of will go down my list, because I went down on the voter machine. Doug had 10,000, but then you guys had 10,000 on PILT. Got 23,000 for the new voter machines. Was part of what he was gonna spend grant money from the Secretary of State, just his, do you remember that request?
I think he's getting a 50%
Okay.
grant guaranteed from the state, so that's why we guesstimated about 10. Looks like if this is 23, that it's more like 1150.
Okay.
But I think we have to pay it up front and then get reimbursed back to PILT.
So I just wanted to, that conflict caught my attention. Working on wages, the Board of Health Secretary, with Janaea leaving, is there gonna be another member that volunteers for that? Another employee's duties gonna shift to cover that? Just worrying about wages to budget for, if I should, or wait and see how it goes, and then we'll do a budget amendment.
I would suggest keep it the same.
Okay.
So we'll have a warm body in there, we just don't know their name.
Okay. And then kind of in the same thing, we've got Sean Rowland doing things as a contracted service versus wages. was there an amount in a contract that he gave you guys to do these services for this amount per month? Or was it just kind of like, because I don't have anything in that line in the budget. We didn't get that. So that was another question. If we have a contract, how much are we gonna pay him this next year? Or are we gonna hire somebody?
Right. Do they currently have a line item for contracted services that could,
Yeah,
could
and
be,
and right now it's in the negative.
that it could be paid out of, yeah?
Yeah, so it's just a matter of, like right now, what, I just need to, the account itself is okay,
Right.
because what was unspent in wages is covering
Mhm.
his services, but for this next year, I don't have any of that
Right.
to do. I don't know if we've made any decisions
Okay.
or talked about it yet.
And I guess we haven't made any decisions either which way we wanna go.
Okay, so, that one,
That way, I mean, as far as for,
No.
I know we've talked about.
We've talked about it, but we haven't advertised before.
so I'll leave that as a to be determined.
Well, I'm just trying to, here it is. Yeah, I'm good with the to be determined, however, I do think we should, have an amount in the professional service or contracted services. And it looks like the salary for Sean, or, I think it should be equivalent to the salary we were paying for Julie,
Okay.
because that we have a full year for that, and see where that comes at
So I mean,
after we've run
yeah.
season.
Yeah, and I think that'll work out fine, just,
Okay,
Looks like about 57,000,
yeah,
and plus 13 roughly for the health insurance, because we're not paying that for a contract.
right, and that was my
So that'd
question,
be 70-ish.
is where we're at. Some of those expenses we don't have.
right,
You know,
because it'll be covered under what Sean's charging you as a contractor,
Right.
which is why I didn't have a budget for any of that, so,
I guess when you kind of
I guess
get
we,
the numbers put to that, let's kind of see where we're breaking
Okay.
out on that.
so if I, most of those numbers
Mhm.
may be the same that was last year, to give us a baseline?
Yep.
Okay.
I guess in my mind, I think we should be realizing a savings over. But I want to see how it really comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's easier to visualize that way,
Mhm.
because then, like, you've talked about with everybody, his is gonna be more seasonal. Right now, he's gonna have a lot, because the weather and the grounds and everything are good, but might slow down when there's snow on the ground and it's cold, nobody's doing anything.
And I think I remember a conversation related to who the person is that ends up in that position, that filling Janae's position, maybe able to help us.
Maybe redoing a lot of the paperwork that he was going
That he
through
was
prior,
doing.
so we don't have to pay him, we just pay that.
Right.
And if we find somebody with
Part-time
soils knowledge, they can actually do the inspections.
Sure. Yeah.
It doesn't require an RD to do that, so we could be looking at some substantial savings.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's what our conversation was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm working on our health insurance permissive expenditures and revenues. It's kind of hard with those without mills, other than, because the permissive are about the same.
Yeah.
So that one's still just kind of in limbo. As we learned last year, we only can base it on the number of employees on health insurance as of July 1st. So we might have issues with, there's a couple of hires that have come in that are eligible for insurance since then. So that's where it kind of is in arrears.
Right.
That's why it's kind of a hard one, but we got, that's where I think they were trying to say you could budget. Well,
Right, and then I
Yeah.
think later today
now we have to pay it back.
we might talk about some of that. I know that that's been an issue with part-time employees. And,
Yeah.
okay,
And so that one's still ongoing, because that can make a difference, why we have to watch that. Otherwise, we have to put them on insurance, If we didn't have it budgeted for the year, we're gonna find those funds in the negative, and that's not a good thing either,
Right.
so. Those are hard.
Okay.
I tried to make it, you can't add somebody during the year. You can fill existing positions with full-time.
How have your conversations gone with that insurance company?
Erin's on vacation till the 22nd, and it's really up to us and the language, as long as it doesn't violate what's in the contract. Just clarifies as an addendum to that, what the hours can include for compensable, if you're on probation. I mean, that's a state regulation, you can't get around from that. So that's why I'm struggling with them wanting to charge us over and under when some of these regulations are state dictated that we have to adhere to, not federal. Just because the insurance is following federal rules, we still have state rules to follow. And that's why I think the purpose of those addendums was to cover that, because of the probation. I don't have a way around that.
And we'll be talking about that at length here in about an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we should stick to the budget, get your questions taken
Yeah.
care of so we don't run out of time.
Are we going to still continue the donations for food pantry, tree, and casa advocates?
My answer is yes. I'm surprised none of them have asked for more, but I think it's absolutely imperative for all three. So I'd say yes, and it's a drop in the bucket.
So, and then the county match for MCH and home health, gonna leave those at 6,000, make any changes?
Are those looking the same, Debbie?
They're doing okay. You know, home health, Linda, Teresa has got extra grant for respite, which, you know, she's talked about needing maybe a 10-hour-a-week person to help with some of that, because Geraldine just keeps putting more and more hours, and she's kind of what brought the whole health insurance, like, we can't do that.
Right, I saw that.
So,
Will 12,000 cover the grant matches?
I think it's been 25%, and the grants haven't increased that much.
Okay,
So it's been covering the extras that we've had, just
and,
above and beyond our 25% match.
okay, so it's been enough.
Yeah, so
Okay,
far.
then I say we leave it the same.
And I think that,
Readdress it when that goes up, if it does.
that program's been very well received and very
Yeah.
successful.
I don't know if you're aware, but Rocky Mountain Development Council had an extra grant for respite, in fact, from the feds. And so Teresa put in for it, and that's where that extra 10 hours a week is coming in for respite care. But she does need somebody else to do that. And Jerry does great, but she's tapped out on hours.
And it's beginning to become more full-time for her, and that's not what she.
Right.
Mhm.
We want to keep her, so we
Yeah.
want to keep her
We
happy.
don't want to wear her out.
Yeah.
Yes. The other ones I weren't sure, because they were kind of a last year. I know the juvenile transportation, Winston, that's one that we're gonna get some reimbursement for, but it's on there from last year, so I didn't know if we wanted to put some in that, so in future,
Well,
it
should
doesn't go in the
we,
negative, or just kind of leave it status quo as we have cases, because that one's not a real regular, kind of a hit and miss.
that one is in the general fund, right? So it's not running a negative in our cash report?
I think it is.
What's the negative? We should make that a positive.
We submitted that bill.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't know if they're gonna pay it, so, but.
It's just shy of $10,000,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Hopefully they will,
I don't know.
yeah. I would suggest we do, it's just shy of 10, I would suggest we do 10 for now. If we get reimbursed, I would suggest that money go back into that fund. If we don't, we address it next
Okay.
year.
Okay.
Does that work?
And then the veterans burial and indigent burials, last year we But those amounts in those two separate funds, we didn't have as many veterans claims this year, so that's been good.
So what's our balance in that account?
These numbers, okay, they are in the general fund. And indigent burials is account 450136 in the general fund. And then veterans burials are 450200 in the general fund, so they kind of lump into the cash.
So they what with the cash?
When PILT donated, it lumps into the general fund cash.
Okay,
But expenditure wise, we didn't have any more indigent burial, we just had that one last year. And then so far, when the report was around in the end of June, we only spent $1850 on veterans burial.
can we, since those are funded from PILT, do we need to take more from PILT to infuse into them? Because that just kind of wraps itself into the full general fund? Is
Kind of
that-
your guys' decision, because that's what we did last year, to cover those expenses. The year before, we went over, so PILT gave to help offset the overages, so it break even. So that's kind of a,
So we could wait and see on that,
Could wait and
couldn't we,
see.
Debbie, since we spent almost nothing?
Mhm. That's what-
Okay.
That's what I say.
Can we just
Let's-
table that
let's
now,
wait, mhm,
till we get a tax levy requirements?
yeah.
Okay,
that changes your PILT bottom line too.
Mhm.
And you guys have 20,000 for, public safety vehicle CIPs. Are we, given these changes, still gonna do that?
I'd like to keep
Or
it for
just-
now till we
okay.
make a decision, but I don't wanna take that out.
Okay, so I will leave it. And this is unknown still. So then the building CIP, ambulance, all the ones in bold. I think we've only talked about the communication fund, the legal fund. We haven't talked about the others, building, ambulance, airport, library, planning. So they don't have, I don't have anything in the budget stuff for that yet.
Do we have a negative for planning in the cash report? I'm just wondering if that, we need to go back up to the economic development, because that includes planning, also our community development.
We do have, in the plan, we do have a negative.
Yeah, the 2250, which is the planning, community development. What is it? Yeah, it's negative $6,881.13 right
And
now.
does that reflect yet the revenue that planning gave to the general fund last year?
Does not.
Okay, so that'll come
I don't
down
want
a
that
little
transfer
bit.
done yet.
So here's what I'm wondering. If we look at economic development on the very top line, I think, Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we took 1 mil and we do half of that to BCDC and half of that to community development. Is that right?
It was split, BCDC, MVAC, and planning. It was we split the 3. Planning, remember,
Oh, you know what, I've got my sheet here, let me look it up.
it was like 0.75, 1 point something. It was enough to cover the dues for MVAC and BCDC. And then the rest went to planning.
Was it 2.5, then, I don't remember the whole mil going to community development, but maybe we did.
I think we talked about it, and then at the last minute, It was only to give,
Okay.
to make it whole.
So it's 1.5 mils to economic development, 1 to MBAC, because that's the federal requirement for dues, and half to BCDC, and then 0.75 to planning and community development. So that's 2.25 total.
Yeah.
And with that, if we did 2.25 times 17,000, I'm just guessing that'll be our mill value, that takes us to 38,250. If we increased economic development, MBAC dues, BCDC membership, and community development to 3,800, just round it down, we can remove the 25,000 from planning, because I don't think that's necessary. And it cleans it up for you, Debbie, I think.
And then planning.
Because we agreed to do those payments from PILT equivalent to mills, unless we get the extra mills, and then we can revisit that. And that 0.75 mils for community development should not only offset the negative, but also help that department get to a place where it is self-sustainable and putting together a CIP in the future. And then that 38,000 would come from the Wheatland turn lanes, since that money is specifically derived from economic development.
So 38 from the turn lanes, and then do the 0.75 mils for planning and economic development.
Do the 2.25 total, so MBAC gets 1 mil,
Okay.
BCDC 0.5, community development 0.75.
Okay.
Are you guys good with that? And did I lose anybody?
No, so if we do that 38 on up there, then you said we're gonna remove the 25 from planning?
That's correct, and we'd
Mhm.
actually be removing it from up here
Mhm.
and put it down
And
here.
put it,
with
and
Wheatland.
it'll be down here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. That one's taken care of. The BARSA, that special gas tax, we showed the revenue for the first part of the year, which was the 22 and some thousand. Did we put in a request? I thought we did for this year for 40 some thousand.
We have not done that yet, we need to,
Okay,
yeah,
so that could be possible revenue then for this year
correct.
that needs to be budgeted, okay. Mary didn't know on that one, and that's new for all of us.
Yeah, we need to work with Mary, and then we need to have a public hearing and do a resolution.
Okay. So, then the building CIP,
Mike thought he could do it with 20, he said 20 to 25,000. What do you think?
finds ways to work wonders
I know.
with that. I know he picked up some of those LED light bulbs yesterday. And he's been really careful this year not to spend it down.
How's the cash report?
He's got $18,055.55 sitting in there.
I would suggest we throw in another 20 and leave it for now. If he needs more, we readdress it later. What do you guys think?
I'd be good with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Cause you know, he spent the last few years getting all the major projects done, so he,
Is he gonna have a little more expense, when we pick up the Opportunity Bank building?
mhm.
However,
But we do
Our
cover.
Covered by our
loan,
loan, right?
right?
Yeah, it'll pay for, I mean, I'm thinking ongoing maintenance.
Yeah,
I mean, our loan,
Oh, yeah.
our loan will
Oh.
pay for the upgrades,
right,
but I'm thinking ongoing maintenance that.
Right.
Yeah, once we get done with all the upgrades, actually, we'll have some more.
Right.
yeah.
So just 20,000.
Okay.
Do that. And the ambulance CIP, back to giving them some every year.
We were, correct me if I'm wrong, Debbie, but I think we were doing 10 a year. And there were a couple of years we missed, and then when it was all said and done, we had to come up with an additional chunk, 37, roughly?
Yeah, that was last year, one that, we got a little sooner than we anticipated,
Right.
and so we didn't have enough in there. One more year, so we would've had it.
So I suggest we up it a little bit to 15, try and do 15 a year. That, because the next ambulance, no, this past one was a 4-wheel drive.
Mhm. This was
So
her.
the next one shouldn't be quite as expensive. But if they come to us and want a 4-wheel drive, or we need a third ambulance, or I don't know. But I just think we'd be safer to put 15 in there. Depending on what happens with the hospital, perhaps we won't need it.
That's my question there
But-
too.
Do you wanna wait, but with a caveat that if it's needed, we'll put it in this year?
Let's wait, and
Okay.
then if we need it, we'll make that adjustment. I think that's the way to go.
I think to, some years, like I said, we had to do nothing because we
Mhm.
just didn't have it. A year when we have it, I think we need to make sure that we're at least aware that that's something we need to keep doing.
Right.
So yeah, I'm good with waiting, if
Mhm.
that works for you guys.
So leave it, but just not do the deck. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just pending, how about that?
Yeah. You know, and I guess that kind of made me think about is it the public safety vehicle CIP? We're kind of not sure there either.
Mhm.
If we decide to do the lease, or even if we don't, I mean, I think that probably gonna need something a little bit more there.
Well, it's easy to leave it in there as an expenditure. I just won't do the transfer away until you guys have approved the transfer.
Yeah, I just,
But if it's
wanted to know.
committed, then you kind of don't
Yeah.
spend it thinking, oh, we got money, and then, oh, whoops, we spent this, we had to decide.
I just wanna keep it on our radars, we may have to change that.
Yeah, I knew with Brent, I tried to get down here, but.
Okay.
Never ceases. So I can do the same thing with the vehicle, we can leave that, because I know we're in limbo, but leave it as an anticipated payment. Got it. And then the airport, another 15, they are sitting. I saw that they weren't gonna spend something, but they've got, in their regular, they got $46,000, 972 in cash. And then their CIP, they have pretty good amount of money still sitting out there yet.
They do.
Oh, there it is, 411.
411.
411?
Is the count, the fund number,
Yeah,
Oh,
4,011.
I was gonna say, hey, we've met our goal.
yeah,
But they have 186,523 sitting in their CIP.
right.
And as far as I know, their runway updates have been done
Yeah,
for
2022 is when,
2022.
I think is when they're next scheduled to do, and, you know, here's something that, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I got an email from Bill, yeah, it said that they did not do that transfer
Oh,
because the FAA ended up funding Livingston Airport fully, so we did not have to do that transfer,
wow.
okay?
How come they don't fund our airport fully?
Well,
Well,
they
my
will when the
thinking
time,
is-
yeah, when the time comes.
Hey, we want what Livingston got.
Yeah, right, so when the time comes, yeah, all these other people will pitch in, hopefully, as we have. And send their funding our way and do what we gotta do.
Mhm.
But I have included that, just so you guys know, in our CRP report for our road policy. I included the airport CIP in that, just so that it's there.
Good, good. So if we have $46,000 in the account, that's gonna be way over the 33% allowed by law. So I'm wondering if we can put that into their CIP, since it is so much, and not do from PILT this year. What do you guys think?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, okay.
So we'd be looking at roughly, I don't know what their full budget is.
Outside of their fuel, they don't have usually a lot of maintenance and repairs. I know they're wanting a new courtesy vehicle.
Oh,
They
right,
applied for a grant for that, right?
Okay.
right. Yeah, and there may be a little bit over the grant, and I think we agreed that they did have the money in their budget that they could use that,
Go over that.
go over that, yeah, if they needed whatever it was to.
So they might not have much transfer, but. Okay.
What is their account number, Debbie?
2170
Oh, all right,
is the regular
thank
one.
you.
I know they had a lot more expense in fuel this year,
They did, and that,
but I think that means more people are using it too. So,
sure.
or the cost went up, not both.
Did they have an increase in revenue then?
Right? Looks like their excess over 33% is roughly 20 grand. So we can put that in their CIP for the turn lane, or the runway.
Yeah, they had fuel sales, they got more this year than they budgeted for. They budgeted 45,000 fuel sales, it got 48,647 or more. This report will be gold.
And
And this was before the 4th of July fly-in, so I'm sure there weren't much sales then.
Yeah, there was, I'm sure.
So this report doesn't reflect that yet.
Right.
And that might be why the cash shows a good balance in their regular fund.
So
And
can
then-
we maybe table that, pending how much we're able to put in their CIP from their mills?
Sure.
Okay, if it is looking like 20 grand, then I think that's still a healthy deposit
Oh, yeah.
into that project without doing PILT. Okay,
The last one is the library. And that's, their regular account fund is 2220. And they sent their budget request, which is a little less than last year, $66,078. I think that was approved a while back. And then the library CIP, they do have a little cash sitting in there of like 3,500.
They use the CIP.
In the past, it's new equipment in the library, like fish machines, computers.
That's why I was wondering, do they use it for the
Yeah,
computers?
I haven't seen them use it probably in 5 years, what's in there.
they had an issue with their computer, video systems. They have security videos, went down a couple of years ago, and that was quite a big price tag. We split it with the school 50/50. That's when we really started making sure there was some money put in the CIP for them. Computers, and really, they've been really good to the county, but we should be splitting more. They just haven't asked us to. I would suggest we leave that, because I don't think, how much do they have in their CIP, Debbie, did you say?
3,569.55.
Oh, that's not very much.
Mm.
Yeah, I think we'd be wise to just throw 10 in there, just to make sure that if something happens, we have some savings for it. And really, a county library would cost us a heck of a lot more than we pay with this partnership.
And because they've been frugal with their savings, they still even have a little bit of cash left in their regular library account.
And it's been pretty darn good.
Okay, so I'll leave it in, so we're gonna transfer it, okay. Okay,
So we already did the insurance, right, Debbie?
yes,
Okay.
that was a couple weeks ago, that was approved. So that takes care of all the questions with the PILT.
So personnel services, that's staying,
And that's for West Ave,
okay,
and some of these are just actual payments,
okay,
they're not transfers.
all right.
You guys pay some of those directly. I think Michelle showed me a bill for this next year for the intercap loan and 3,000. Two payments, like
Okay.
15 something a piece. Pay directly. Now, one clarification on the mental health 5,000.
Yes.
That is for the community health doctor, the Board of Health, or is this mental health center, Centers for Mental Health?
Oh,
Separate run then from
good question.
the chemical dependency?
It's not the chemical dependency, but we do have two. So 5,000 goes to the public health officer, and then it's about 5,600 that we pay to the Center for Mental Health. Center for Mental Health is 11 counties that we're involved in, and each one pays a certain amount of dues. The bigger counties pay a lot more than we do. They carry us, which is nice. There's the ones who use this office every Friday.
I just thought of something. Do we have our agenda done?
No,
We gotta get that.
Oh, yeah.
but I think we have till 2, don't we?
I thought it was new.
I think 2 was pushing it
Is it?
with Bobby. 'Cause I
Okay,
missed it
maybe.
one day short by 2, by like 10 minutes. and
Okay,
it
well,
was a
maybe
no-go.
maybe it is too, okay.
I don't think I have to.
Oh, well, I
And
thought-
we could certainly break and get that done if you want.
Yeah.
And one last thing on the hangar lease for the airport. Didn't show we had very much revenues in there. I don't know who collects it, who deposits it, where does it go? I know Ricky's saying there's a lot of hangars out there, but the revenue for it was not very much. Lease, hangar, we budgeted 3,900 and there's only 534 received. When this was done at the end of June.
You know what, that's a good question. I could ask that. I could have an airport board meeting tonight.
Okay.
I can find out.
Because then Jesse come in, their secretary, and had questions about the cows that they're leasing because they're having a meeting. I wondered if she had to do anything special. So, she didn't know, the guy, and whoever's there, Mike, Michelle might help him.
Yeah.
So we don't get a lot of communication from him like we used to with Bob or Ernie. He just lies. He does.
Yep.
Yeah, he's not, let somebody else worry about the business, so. I just wanted to check on that, make sure we weren't missing something here on that one. I don't have a budget for the TV district.
Oh, you know what, that's on us. I would suggest just the same as last year, if you guys are good with that.
Does that have the lease payment in it? I think that contract's up next year.
260. No. Michelle hasn't said anything. Let me look. Is that like, there is a rent payment out here, $7,969, was that close?
Seems to me that that was like a 3-year payment or something.
Yeah, because they hadn't
'cause
been
They
paid.
haven't been billing us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I budgeted 11,000.
Yeah, it should be, that's more than enough to cover.
Does that sound like
Yeah.
it was probably their payment?
That should
Okay.
cover it.
So then, I'd have to go get a detailed report to know for sure, but I'm guessing on that amount. And then I might just order some more parts, but that'll be next fiscal year, air conditioning or something for Charlie.
Yeah, and you just had something,
Hmm.
the AC went out there or
Yeah.
something
Right, you're right.
just recently.
Mhm.
So that's not reflected in here as charges. But last year's budget total was 20,400 and only 10,443 was spent. So if it's the same,
Yeah, I would think so.
I can make those numbers happen. Those were my major ones that I had questions on. Yep, those were, got some are just notes for me and things I need to work with other departments on.
So if we just have on the budget, on the agenda next Monday to make these decisions, any other budget updates, we can kind of do the same thing, just not in a working meeting, and then make these official.
And then I can update the PILT sheet
Yeah.
meeting and.
Yeah, you gotta go back and redo that now.
It's all right, it's not too hard. I purposefully left stuff in there so I don't have to do a lot of work.
Sure.
It's not hard.
Perfect.
It changes every year, but it's not as much as it looks like. And then it'll give us, and then by Monday I should have our tax levy requirements worksheet to kind of show our percents where we're at right now. And then another week hopefully we'll have our levy requirements and have an even better idea where we're at. See what changes and what we've got and.
Is there anything else we need on the agenda next week for the budget? Just making those final decisions, maybe talking with personnel. I think we've got you guys all settled, but
Yeah.
There
Val?
might be some
Yeah,
more,
Robert, when you talk with Val and yeah, you
some
guys,
more personnel issues to solid up and
right,
approve.
Okay, so
Some
just those,
discussions.
think about how we wanna write that job description for that person.
okay. So if we know what needs to go on the agenda, it should take 2 minutes, maybe 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to type in the words. I already worked on it this morning and got the budget in there, so I'll just throw in
Okay.
personnel,
Right,
hiring positions for the two. And then make those final decisions. We already made the decision, we just need to act on it,
Yeah.
okay?
'Cause once those are finalized, then I can go back and make sure the hours and the wages, once they get settled, which will change a few of the budget lines in some of those departments.
We will need to see some kind of a tax levy requirements report to make a final decision on the district court and
right.
your office
Mhm.
assistant, so that we know where we stand.
Yeah, that was my thoughts. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's the same thing.
Could we have something that gives us an idea to make that final decision, Debbie, on Monday? Or is that
Yeah.
too soon?
No, because now that I've got some of this, I can change in the Black Mountain system, which then gives me ideas and numbers to put into my Excel sheet.
Okay,
And then we kind of have an idea with our current, if we budget for last year's revenues and it looks fairly decent, hopefully at least 1,000 more too per mil would be
right,
gravy.
And this is
in a good position.
the email that I got from you on the market adjustments, right?
Yes,
Okay, that will work with you.
I can.
You guys seen this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see this?
I did, thanks. So, is that it for the budget?
That's all I have. Rest of mine are just a little bit cleanups and things I noted that I have to go back and reports. Or questions I had that I need to verify.
Come up with any more, we can answer them on Monday.
One of them, I just need to talk with Brandon a bit.
So one of the things Debbie and I talked about yesterday is the CBAs and
Mhm.
the health insurance. Did anything change there, Debbie?
I don't have an email. Michelle and I did have an email from Corey wanting the personal policy, so he might be looking at our policies to help with some of that. I don't know, I haven't heard back. I
Okay,
don't know where he's at on it.
so if we could put that on the agenda maybe Monday as well until we get the information back and can make the vote. What Debbie asked is that we do the health insurance agreement with the CBAs so that they jive and we don't get one done and then Teamsters says, yeah, we're not gonna work with you on
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
I mean, right now they've got us over a barrel because they haven't given us anything in writing. And that is not fair to
Mhm.
Debbie and her department.
Right.
It's just causing them too much extra work, so.
Like I explained before, I've pulled all the Montana codes and things that have driven why we have done some of the things we've done. The audit company had no clue. Well, I know we're state and we do more restrictive, I think, than federal, because federal, and we learned that in our OSHA 300 record keeping yesterday. They go more federal, so it's more broad. You just can't violate the federal. Well, if we're not violating and just taking that and making it more restrictive, we're not violating because we're meeting their minimum. And that's where with some of these, the probationary periods,
Mhm.
you know, that's a real big hardship with the on again, off again. And I already had a new deputy who, it took us a while to get the insurance out there and he was having troubles getting coverage. And then he was a little upset because the insurance, turns out, has a 2-month lag on the prescription. Well, if you take your family and kid to the doctor and find out you don't have insurance the next month because you didn't have hours because you were out sick, or your family issues, you have to stay home with your child, I don't want to be on the receiving end of that, which is what this is gonna put us into. And the auditors were kind of, no, we need more, and then we'll rewrite your request. Well, outside of a couple people who had family medical leave papers, I don't have any other documentation to back me up. Gave them our policies, statutes. And so without that clarification about the hours and not getting paid during your probation if you miss a day, because you can't use your accruals, it puts us in this over-under. And we have no choice but to pay the penalty. And if we underpay, they charge us interest, of course. If we overpay, oh well, sucks for you. I'm having a hard time with that because we've done this for 2 different times now. And it seems to be kind of some of their same issues we have with this, is those compensable hours. So we've got to have that
Okay.
somehow. I think Erin is probably understands and okay with that, but she didn't know anything about it, hasn't written it. So I just took, since I've been doing this, kind of tried to word it. Well, I think we need to explain it as clarification. Whether we'll pass or not, that's where we're at. And we sent it to Corey for his opinion and maybe clean it up with the language a little bit. Try to keep it short and sweet, but I can be a little more wordy, so that doesn't always work. So,
Now, your emails actually are very clearly written for the most part. I would say that I can't think of any exceptions to that. So you are actually very good at written communication.
so, that's all I had.
Well, thanks, Debbie.
Okay.
Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah. Okay, this is the fun part.
Thanks
Oh,
for
I did
sticking
have
with us.
one
Ann.
question. Almost forgot this. When we hired Mary, she has an office here in the courthouse that we didn't have before. So So some of the services for her meters, when she charges the computer, the utilities, because she's in the courthouse above and beyond the road and solid waste, we have set up separate expenditure lines under the public fund, general fund. Is that how we want to continue with in the courthouse, or is that something you think really needs to be separated out between road and all the departments she's already under, and add it to that? Michelle and I set it up separate because our logic was she's here in the courthouse, and this is her office, it was a new computer, she's splitting fees with those of us in the courthouse. But we never had anything set up when we did budget for that last year, because we didn't think about it. So that's another one,
I think
how
it
you
should be
guys felt about
split
it.
between all those departments, if that's not too much work on Michelle, because that's who she is, regardless of where her office is located.
Because it helps us with the direction where we need to go.
Yeah.
Right now it's separate, and it would just be a matter of doing a journal to transfer and change the splits. But moving forward, budgetary, what are we looking at? I know we're still working on the Blackfoot and getting all the kinks worked out of that, so.
Yeah, if you could let us know what it looks like, I think that'd be
Okay.
really good.
Nicole said something about she'd asked you to drop our hours down to 32 instead of 40. Is that another one of those?
I don't think we made that decision yet.
Okay, still not decided, okay. I didn't, she said something about it yesterday and I didn't know, so I won't mess with anything with the budget then until I get the official. Okay. Okay, all right.
Well, thanks, Debbie.
This is the fun part.
Good, I'm glad to hear you say that.
I like playing with the numbers. Fun to see them change. And see things go the right way.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
When they don't go the right way, that I know. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Debbie.
Ask me, shall receive, you might be getting a bunch of emails. Ready?
And I'd like to resume our closed door, if that's okay with you guys, before 1 o'clock.
All right.
Yeah.
I need to take a bathroom break.
All right.
Like the commercial in the car? No, you gotta hold it for my discount.
Yeah, don't mess with my discount.
So we're not gonna do this 12:30 Teamsters
Yeah, we're gonna have to postpone that because we don't have the
the
information from Aaron
information.
and Cory.
Okay.
Yeah,
Agenda item for next week again.
yeah.
Oh, you got another closed door this afternoon?
Yes,
Not another, the same one.
the continuation of our one this morning.
Oh, okay.
That Ocean 300 was interesting, the record keeping. Because how they look at what's reportable and not reportable is so different than what you would think.
So is the regular meeting then adjourned?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear if you adjourned it or not.
yeah, we'll adjourn
Okay.
11:50.
Thank you.